YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. You know, it's been a few days since my last video, and you know, I haven't been on that daily schedule, so I apologize for that in advance. I've had a lot going on. I've been trying to really, you know, I've got a number one goal here, and that's make the Elite Series, and I've been pushing forward to that. I actually just drove in from the St. Lawrence River all the way here to North Carolina to get a little bit more extended practice. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to drive all the way from St. Lawrence all the way to Texas, 2-day drive there, and then come back here in just a couple of days. It just didn't make much sense to do that, so I just came right on here. I'm actually getting some service done on my Yamaha. Maintenance matters, guys. Make sure you take care of those motors. It's my 100-hour service, so I'm getting all that all squared away. But, you know, one thing I really want to talk about real quick is please say a prayer for Skeeter Fowler's family. Skeeter Fowler was a friend of mine, a friend of a lot of fishermen. He passed away last night with COVID, and it just sucks, man. I mean, there's just no way around that. It's really hard. It's a hard thing to talk about, and it's what the world we're living in right now. It's crazy. But today's video, I know I've kept y'all a minute and a half so far, but today's video is more of a kind of a recap of sorts of the St. Lawrence River. And I'm not going to sit there and talk about baits and all this other crap. I'm not going to sit there and waste your time with that, but I'm going to kind of tell you what went down there. So on day one, I weighed in just under 19 pounds. I think it was like 1812 or 1814. I don't exactly know the ounces. But it was around that range, and I think I was in the 60s, like 62nd place after day one. And it was one of those tournaments where they absolutely mauled them. Like, the weights were incredible. The fishing, I'm not going to say it was incredible, but when you caught one, it was pretty much a big one, at least for me. So day one didn't start as planned. I lost some fish, but it was more than that. You know, I actually started the day, I was boat 21, and we're taking off at 6:30, and I'm jacked. Like, I know I'm going to go out there and bust them today. Like, that was my mentality. Like, I'm going to go catch some big ones. Well, when I get ready to idle through boat check, literally that morning, I was idling through boat check, all my power turned off in my boat. Everything turned off. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I couldn't even make it through boat check, and I lost all power. I lost my lights. I lost my live wells. The only thing working was my depth finders. Well, sounds great. You know, my troll motor works, my depth finders work. I should be good to go. But if you don't have your live wells, you can't really weigh in fish. So, guys, this is the reality of tournament fishing. You know, obviously, takeoff's going on. Y'all saw my initial video talking about, hey, I'm getting ready to take off, blah, 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 whatever. Well, my boat's not working. I had a panel go out, and so the last 30 minutes, it's 7 o'clock now, takeoff was at 6:30, and I was like boat 21. So I was an early boat, and it means I have an early check-in, and couldn't get a hold of the service guy for the longest of times. Finally got him, and he was 30 minutes away. So hopefully we'll be on the water in at least another 30 minutes or so. That takes an hour out of my day, so talk about some strain. I'm just telling you right now, I am so super stressed out. Just trying to make a good decision here. We'll see what happens. I've got a shorter day. It's still going to make a long run, so we'll see what happens. I don't even know what to say. It's part of tournament fishing, though. So I got to be in at 250. Guess I'm not going out to ducks today. It's out there a little ways. It's out there a little ways.
We'd have been there by now.
Maybe.
Yeah, you roughly, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty rough out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of residual waves from yesterday. We're doing it 250. We gotta be smart here. Maybe, you know, having a little extra time allows you to go practice a little bit and try some different stuff. We're not gonna be able to try anything. We're gonna have to just go to the shit and catch them. Sorry about that, buddy.
Well, 1 year fault. You may
amazing. Pretty darn soft. I think you only dropped the F-bomb 3 times.
I tried. I really did. I promise. By the time he got there and diagnosed the problem, which happened to be a bad ground wire, I didn't actually get on the water until about 8 o'clock. Well, I had about an hour run down to where I was wanting to fish, or where I felt like I had the best chance to catch some big ones. As soon as I pulled up to my first spot, which was out in the lake, and it was windy that day. It was big waves, really big waves. My second drop of the day, I lose a really big one.
Ooh. Oh my God. I can't believe I just lost another 4-pounder. I mean, what do you do? He was coming up so fast, I couldn't slow him down. That was another legit 4.
And, you know, that stung, especially because I had such a slow start to the day. But I rebounded. I caught one that was almost 5 pounds, 10 minutes later.
Pretty good one there. Oh yeah. Stay down, stay down. Please. There we go. That's the right one.
That's it. Nice one.
Yeah, you know what? Some big rollers. I mean, it's not blowing.
Yeah, it's fairly calm out here.
Actually, I don't like it when the gobies are biting that hard. If the gobies are that active, there's not very many fish around.
They're not that worried, huh?
No. That's kind of what I was getting at this week. Like, when I'd get a bunch of goby bites, I wouldn't catch very many smallmouth. That's a big smallmouth.
And end up catching a limit right there on that spot. But the other 4 were really little. And so I kind of started making some adjustments, started making some moves, and every time I make a move, it was the wrong move. Like, I wasn't getting the bites. I just wasn't even getting bites, like, which was crazy because in practice I could get bites basically at will, and I could catch them in a bunch of different ways. But for that reason, that day, I don't know if it was just because I had a really short day. I had to be in at like 2:30, and you match that with the fact that I had such a late start and a long run. It kind of puts you under the gun a bit. Well, I ended up making a few moves and not really catching anything, and I pull up to a spot, pitch my drop shot down there. One eats it, set the hook, and I get it all the way to the boat, and it dives all the way down the bottom and breaks me off. And it's like a 4-pounder, around that range. It wasn't a giant, but I mean, it was a good one. It was a 4-pounder is a good one there. And I lose that one, hook another big one, lose that one. And, if it could go wrong, it went wrong. That for that time period, I don't know why. Like, I had one that I hooked under the trolling motor, and it was another one that was around 5 pounds. And I knew when it was big because some of those big ones in practice, when they would eat that drop shot, you'd set the hook and they'd immediately start coming up. You'd have to catch up with them, and they'd jump about over your head. And this one did that, and it was a gigantic one. And it jumps clear over my trolling motor and comes off. So, I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, it's like level with me. So it was pretty crazy. But that's when I made an adjustment. So I mean, at this point, I got like 5 for 11 pounds. I only got a couple hours of fishing left. And I see a spot, and it kind of matched my pattern. And I was just looking for any kind of drop, any kind of subtle drop. And it kind of matched it, but I hadn't graphed that spot. So I graph it, and I see like 3 or 4 boulders down there. Whip around, flip down there, catch a 5. And I'm like, all right. So I've got two around 5 pounds, and I've got 3 little ones. And then I make another move to a spot. And it's like, yeah, I got about 40 minutes left. And I catch another one almost 5. And then that was it. I mean, that was my day. I had 2 2-pounders and 3 around 5 pounds, and I weighed almost 19. Well, day 2, you know, I'm like, I get my boat fixed. I go back into the boat yard. They make sure everything's good and everything is solid. Like, they went through my boat like with a fine-tooth comb and could not find anything else. So we were good to go. Tightened some bolts because it was really, really rough that day. And so on day 2, I start back on my same spot. My culling lure catches a 4 and a 3.5, which was great for him. I mean, I was happy for the guy. And I never had a bite. And so I pull over on another spot, and Chris Johnston's sitting on it, and he's actually getting ready to leave. So I'm like, well, I really don't want to fish behind Chris Johnston, but I did anyway. And I pull up, and I hook a really big one. And, you know, it comes up to the top. And I've had it happen a couple times, and this is the only thing I think could have happened because I didn't even have very much pressure on the fish. But he broke me off, and I'm sitting there reeling it, and I barely got any, like I said, any pressure on it. And he turns, and the only thing I can think is I was throwing pretty light line, that when he turned, his fin hit my line and snapped it. He caught it just perfect. And when that happened, like, it just was like that, like, almost like I hit a zebra mussel or something, but I was at the top of the water. I mean, that's how easy it broke. And I just retied, so, like, it wasn't a zebra mussel. So it had to have been either his mouth or something that caused it to break like that, because it was just a really weird situation. But, you know, this is never how you want to start the day. That was literally my only bite for like 4 hours. And I made some insane calls, made some runs, did some stuff. I pull up to another spot, and I hook another like 3.5. It comes off. It jumps off. And then I finally catch a 2.5 pounder. It's like 1 o'clock. Make a move to the Glue Islands, which is, on that day, I should not have run out to the Glue Islands because it was really, really big waves. And I did anyway. I took a little bit of a gamble. I immediately get out there. My coiler misses one. I lose another big one under the boat. I felt like a big one. It could have been like a 2-pounder, but it felt like a good one. And he catches a keeper. And then that was the last bite we had until like 2 o'clock, 2:30. And I told him, I said, we gotta make our way back into the river. I was like, I'm done with the lake. It's not happening for me in the lake today. And so I make a move back into the river. And when I get in there, I'm like, you know what? My buddy Matt told me, he's like, hey, you know, these buoys are really good. You need to go fish some of these buoys. If you get in a bind, you need a fish, or maybe even need a 4 or 5 pounder or whatever. Sometimes they have them. And I'm like, all right. Well, I'm running around and I see a buoy and I look at the contour and it looks right. Never fished it in my life. I pull up to it and I start kind of live scoping around. And the only reason I was live scoping because the direction the wind was blowing was against the current. So like I couldn't make the drift the way I felt like I needed to. And I see one on live scope almost immediately. Flip down there to it and I hook it. It's a 613. Big bass the entire event. And when I say this fish fought as hard as any fish that I've ever hooked, would be an understatement. It took me a good 2 to 3 minutes just to land this particular bass. And it was in the current and everything. And I mean, I'm fighting this fish, fighting it. And honestly, when I hooked it, I thought I snagged the bottom. It didn't even move. I mean, just was like, and then I felt it go like, and then at that moment, I was like, man, I got a big drum or something because it's just too big. Well, just about 20 minutes after that, I catch another 5-pounder. And that's when I made a really bad decision. Instead of staying on that spot, I've got about an hour left. Instead of staying on that spot at the end of the day, I decided I'm going to move and go to a spot that I know has a lot of keepers. Well, I get about 3/4 of the way there and realize I don't have enough gas to make it there and make it back to weigh-in, because it's quite a bit further. You know, like you zoom out on your map and you go, man, it's just right there. I can make it there. It's not far. But it was far. It was like 30-minute drive. I was going to have to go past weigh-in, go about 10 miles past weigh-in just to make it to this place. And I literally did not have enough gas on I've got 2 tanks on my Bass Cat Era, and when it gets even with E, you got about 5 to 7 gallons roughly left. And I was even with E, and I wasn't even halfway there yet. And I was like, I'm going to run out of gas. So I kind of fumbled around and just tried to catch 2 more keepers, and it did not work out. I ended up weighing 3 fish on the very best smallmouth fishery in the United States. I did win big bass. And it's kind of a bittersweet deal, you know, like, yeah, it worked out, and I dropped a place in points. And when you're fishing, you're trying to make the elites, you can't have butt fumbles like that. I feel like Mark Sanchez right now in the butt fumble. I made some really bad calls this week on St. Lawrence, and I've got to make up some ground. So I'm here at Norman. I'm going to try to make up some ground here. I think I can. I feel pretty solid about that. But overall, guys, this has been just such a tough year. I know it doesn't look like a tough year. I've gotten a few checks. I've had some, some really good finishes. But guys, like, the number one reason I haven't caught them is myself. Making bad decisions and, not executing. I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, I've had some chances this year, and y'all haven't seen them. Because, for instance, St. Lawrence. I'm dealing with 5 and 6 footers. I broke my GoPro mount in the first 5 minutes of the trip, and I'm sitting here trying to, rig it up to where to work, and it's not working. And so some of the stuff I got on camera, and some of it I didn't. But, it's just one of those. It's just been one of those trips. Look at that one. The James River, I lost a bunch of big ones on day 2. The only one that I can look back on this entire year, literally the entire year, the only tournament I can look back on and say, I just didn't catch them, I wasn't on them as good, was Douglas Lake. That's literally the only tournament this entire year that I felt like, man, I just wasn't on them. I'd maxed out what I could have done and what I found on that particular event. But the rest of them, I left a lot of pounds on the table. I left a lot of fish on the table. And it's my own fault. But, looking at a glass half full, I've got 3 tournaments left. I can turn it around. I can survive. I've survived this long with as many mishaps as I've had. And then I absolutely think I can. So, guys, I hope y'all have enjoyed this recap. It's not like any other recap that I've done. I'm not going to sit there and break down the baits and all that stuff, because why would y'all really want to know what baits I used and the tackle I used when I finished 93rd place? Let's be honest. Should I have had a mid-20 pound bag each day? Absolutely. And that's what hurts so bad. It hurts my heart that, I should have actually had a 23, 24 pound bag each day. Really should have. And it's my own fault. You can't weigh in 2-pounders at the St. Lawrence River, and I weighed in 3 of them. I weighed in 1 on the second day, and I weighed in 2 on the first day. You can't weigh in 2-pounders. That's might as well not even have a fish. So, I do have a really interesting video coming tomorrow, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that. I think y'all are going to enjoy it. I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next video.